You can kind of see over my shoulder, Karl Anthony Towns is at the elbow right now, talking through something with the staff. The team is out here warming up.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Here's the Scoop from NBC News. I'm Yasmin Vasugian. We are courtside in San Antonio, Texas. What NBA players are doing to prepare for the make or break game on Saturday night, plus another huge sports moment, the first FIFA World Cup game in the United States tonight in Los Angeles, why the U.S. men's team are being called the Golden Generation, and what that means for their chances of winning the World Cup. Up first, though, as of noon today, Elon Musk was worth $1.2 trillion, making him the world's first trillionaire. It's all about SpaceX, of course, which started trading publicly today. Shares were initially valued at $135, but opened even higher at $150, the largest IPO ever. And Musk rang the NASDAQ bell from the SpaceX headquarters in Texas this morning.
And let me tell you, if people had told me this was going to happen, I was like, man, you must be smoking some really good crack. Because I think this company's going to fail.
The IPO put SpaceX's valuation at more than $2 trillion. But is the company worth all of that? And given what we know about Elon Musk's somewhat erratic behavior, what could happen to the valuation in the months to come? For this, I want to bring in Ryan Mack, a tech reporter for the New York Times who has covered Elon Musk extensively. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's good to have you. So let's talk about SpaceX. It's a huge day for SpaceX, a huge day for Elon Musk. Now it seems essentially a trillionaire. Were you surprised to see trading open well above a pretty already high price of $135 a share?
I think I was just surprised. I've been dealing with these numbers for a long time, but even just thinking about trillions versus billions, I mean, that is always kind of an eye-opening number, and that's something I don't think we should lose sight of. But in terms of where this thing opened today, the IPO price is $135. It opened at $150. It's now trading up above $165. There was a lot of talk about the demand being oversubscribed for this IPO. There's also pretty low float associated with this IPO. Only about 4% of shares of this company are available for the public to buy. So, I think that's driven demand up, and that's what we've seen today of, kind of a frenzy of folks looking to invest in this kind of one-of-a-kind company.
So that is the question of what is this company, right? What is SpaceX actually about? Because we know what it's about when you watch the news. It's about rocket launches, NASA contracts, potential missions to Mars. But what else is SpaceX about? What else would people be essentially investing in?
So you mentioned the rocket business, which is the thing that the company was founded upon, this idea of developing reusable rockets. And the company has these semi-reusable rockets now that get things into orbit. They account for anywhere from 85 to 90% of mass into orbit, which is a virtual monopoly, and kind of no other company does that at this point in time. And it's a pretty decent business for them. Other parts of the business include Starlink, which is the main revenue driver. It's the company's satellite internet service. And they have about 10,000 of these satellites in lower Earth orbit, kind of buzzing around the Earth and beaming down signal so that you can connect to the internet. That does a couple $2 billion for them every year in profit. It's quite a successful business at this point. On top of all that, you have kind of this AI company that's been bolted on in recent months. You have earlier this year, XAI, Elon Musk's AI company, was merged with SpaceX. And so with that, you have the maker of Grok, the chatbot. You have X, the social platform formerly known as Twitter, that was owned by XAI. You have a lot of these data centers, AI infrastructure that he's built. And it's kind of revolves around this idea that Elon has, which is to put these data centers into space. It's a largely unproven idea, but he's betting the future of SpaceX on it and hopes that, this is the direction that tech will go in.
Valuations of IPOs can fluctuate a lot in the first couple of months, but it seems like they're also going to have to deal with Elon Musk himself, the way in which he communicates publicly. You look, for instance, at the political backlash to his support of President Donald Trump in the 2024 election, his actions as the head of Doge. And then just this week, he was criticized for supporting anti-immigrant riots in Northern Ireland. he's denied that he was to blame for the riots, but how could Musk's behavior, his statements on X, for instance, how could that impact the value of SpaceX?
Yeah, I've covered him for a long time now, and you mentioned the kind of political backlash that he faced after the election of Donald Trump and his involvement there. I remember Tesla shares falling, people not buying cars because of it, protests outside of Tesla showrooms, for example, that really affected the company. I don't really see that political backlash happening right now with SpaceX, and I'm not entirely clear as to why that's the case, and maybe it's because it's such a big money opportunity, or they've sort of separated SpaceX from all that.
Do you think that Elon in a way has been laying low in anticipation of this moment?
I don't know. I pay attention a lot to his X feed, and I don't consider him lying low in that sense. Like you mentioned earlier, he was inciting people to go protest immigrants essentially in Northern Ireland. So I mean, he could have shut up and not said anything and just waited for this IPO to happen. But that's just not his nature. He just likes to spout off on X. And that's sort of why he's built this cult of personality over the years. He's used Twitter and public forums and public appearances to, develop this idea that he's a very real person. He'll say what comes to mind. So the idea of lying low, I don't think is in his repertoire, I guess.
How does being a publicly traded company change things for Starlink and SpaceX as a whole?
It's a good question. There will now be financial disclosures that the company will have to make quarterly. It technically has to answer to shareholders, but that's kind of the interesting thing here, in that Elon has learned from his experience with Tesla, where he has said, he didn't like running a public company. In fact, he tried to take Tesla private in 2018. But with SpaceX, if you actually look at the financial filings, you realize that he has ultimate control, even with this company going public. He has more than 82% of voting control over the company. He owns nearly 50% of the outstanding stock at this point. He has an iron grip over SpaceX. He controls the board, for example. And there's really nothing folks can do to challenge him and challenge his authority. There's also provision within the company's financial documents that prevent anyone from filing shareholder lawsuits against the company. You have to go through arbitration.
So now that Elon Musk is essentially a trillionaire, the first of its kind, I know you write a lot about him. You've been following him for a long time. You say he hasn't been lying low. How does he spend this money? What does he do with it? We know he has spent a lot of money on campaigning over the last few years.
Yeah, I don't think this fundamentally changes his life on a day-to-day basis so much. For example, when he elected Donald Trump in November 2024, he was worth $350 billion. Well, what had he done by that point? He had already bought a whole company personally for himself in Twitter. He had already spent about $290 million electing a president that he wanted. And he could do all that with that net worth that he had. That net worth has now tripled in less than 2 years. And so it's not like, he's never been a fan of yachts or islands or sports teams or what have you. I think I saw a calculation, he could buy the whole NBA at this point. And
come on.
Yeah. Well, maybe he could buy the NFL as well. But I mean, I think I like to think of his wealth as an approximation for his power. And, we've already seen what he can do with a third of that. Now imagine what he can do now. And, he's getting involved in politics around the globe. Who knows what he'll do.
Well, you literally just said that he elected Donald Trump. Did you mean to say that?
He helped elect Donald Trump, I should say. Or, he heavily influenced the election. It's undoubted. He spent $290 million plus electing Donald Trump. That's couch change for him at this point when he's a trillionaire.
Well, it speaks to the power that one can wield when you are now, as you just said, a trillionaire. Not you, of course, but Elon Musk.
Not yet.
Not yet. You're on your way, buddy. You're on your way.
On my way, yeah.
Ryan Mack, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so we talked about the World Cup kickoff yesterday in Mexico. Well, today they are coming home to the States. The U.S. men's soccer team are taking on Paraguay for their opening match in Los Angeles. It's going to be the first tournament game played on U.S. soil in over 3 decades. But the U.S. men's team has not had the best results on soccer's biggest stage in the past. But expectations are high this time, or higher, I should say. The group is being dubbed the Golden Generation. So who are the promising members of the U.S. men's national team, and can they live up to the golden moniker? For this, I want to bring in Andrew Greif, NBC News Digital sports reporter. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
It's great to have you on. Aren't you lucky? You're going to the opening match in Los Angeles. Explain to us this Golden Generation name. What does it mean?
This is something that, if you follow soccer, you hear all the time from countries around the world where a really promising group of young kids has kind of come up the ranks together through the developmental channels that a country might have. And they've played on maybe the under-17 teams and the under-20 teams. And now it's their time to shine on the biggest stage possible in the World Cup. The U.S. has had this quote-unquote golden generation for a couple of World Cup cycles now, going back to the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. That one, they got to the round of 16, and this time they're trying to get to the quarterfinals for the first time since 2002. That's really the high watermark of U.S. soccer is 2002, and this group is trying to get past it.
So I want to talk about the superstars on the team. Christian Pulisic, we know, is one of the big stars in the team. Who else could be a standout player in this World Cup for the U.S. men's soccer team?
My first thought goes to Chris Richards, who's one of the best defenders on the U.S. team, maybe the best. He injured his ankle 2 months ago, and it was doubtful that he would be at full strength for this World Cup, which left the U.S. in a pretty dire spot because obviously they have 26 of the best soccer players in the country, but Richards is uniquely talented on defense. So he seems to be good to go to play in today's opening match. That should give the U.S. some confidence. I also think about a guy like Sergiño Dest. Christian Pulisic, though, is probably the most popular headliner, the person who you'll see in all the commercials in the lead up to this World Cup. He plays for AC Milan, one of the top clubs in Europe. And he's really been the player who's been tracked by soccer fans in this country for about a decade, really.
What about the coach? Because he's not American, he's Argentinian. His name is Mauricio Pochettino. He's coached some major club teams at PSG, Chelsea. What do we know about him?
Yeah, he comes in this in an odd point in his career where he'd been at some of the biggest clubs in the world, and he had been, led Tottenham to the Champions League final, basically the competition of the best club in Europe. He's coached PSG stars like Messi and Kylian Mbappe. The U.S. is a little bit different. This is something that's not a country where soccer is maybe the most popular sport, but he has sort of said, why can't we have success? Just because there's not a history of it doesn't mean that this group can't do it on home soil. I'm really curious to see kind of how much his lineups change from match to match. He's been very coy about who he will start today. Even the players this week, when I went to practice in Southern California, they said, we don't know who's starting Friday. So he's keeping the team and the country a little bit on its toes.
The U.S. women's soccer team have won the World Cup 4 times. The men have had some very disappointing runs, as you talked about. They missed out on the 2018 tournament. As you mentioned, the best showing in modern times was back in 2002. What is going to make the real difference for them this time around?
Well, that's actually something we've been talking to a lot of people in this sport around the country about, is what's going to help the U.S. break through eventually. And a lot of people describe how really you have to look at the developmental system in the U.S. and how there's a lot of options if you're a really talented player. And sometimes it can be hard to decide where I want to go. Do I want to play in an MLS academy? Do I want to play maybe in Europe? Do I want to play for my high school and a college team? There's really not one uniform path, and that's created what some people think is like a lag of why the U.S. men have fallen behind some of these other countries in the world, like the France and the Spain and the Argentinas. So for this cycle, I think they're going to have to play better offense, frankly. This is a team that could be capable defensively, but offense is sort of where the questions always lie. But I think down the road, really big picture, it's will this team be competitive in World Cups for the next 10 or 20 years? It's figuring out how they can get the most talented players in this country to a place where they can be developed at a young age to the point where they can really, truly be a golden generation.
There's also some politics involved in this World Cup, and part of that is the ongoing war between Iran and the United States. At one point, we didn't think Iran was going to come. Now they are. They're going to face their first match on Monday, I believe, up against New Zealand. What are you expecting for that match, not just from the play, but surrounding the match, potential protests, security measures in place. What have you heard?
FIFA tries to keep it a politics-free zone as much as possible, FIFA being the global governing body of soccer. They want this to be a celebration of soccer, but you can't ignore the real-world news cycle, so much so that Iran moved its home base for the tournament from Tucson, Arizona to Tijuana across the border because they did not want to have their home base in the U.S. They cited security concerns. So this is something where we will be on the lookout, of course, for protests. I think I've anecdotally heard a lot of Iranian fans or fans who have ties to the country that they're really excited to go to that match, to support their country, especially at a time like this.
Let's get some predictors from you. Prediction for how the U.S. is going to do.
I do think they'll make it out of the group, and I do think they can get to the quarterfinals. Maybe this is because I'm watching this Knicks-Spurs NBA Finals, where everything in the world is happening, and it's the most unpredictable thing we've seen in a long time. But I sort of am not putting it past the U.S. to have something happen, riding the momentum of a home soil crowd.
So you're giving the U.S. men's soccer team some Knicks energy. Who do you think is going to be the overall World Cup winner?
I do think it's going to be France. They are consistently ranked among one of the top 3 in the entire world. Argentina, the reigning champion, has a big question in how Messi will look. Spain, because of Lamine Yamal's injury availability, how will he look over the next 5 weeks? Can he hold up? That's the big question I have for them. So that leads me to think that France is maybe the best option.
Andrew Greif, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we said this on Monday. It was a huge week in sports, and tomorrow is another huge day, and that is the NBA Finals happening in San Antonio, Texas. The New York Knicks and the San Antonio Spurs each won a game in New York. Now they're in San Antonio, Texas for Game 5. The Knicks are up 3-1 on the Spurs, meaning the Knicks could clinch the title in Texas this weekend. That is where we find NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch in San Antonio, Texas, standing by. And by the way, you can hear the sneakers and the basketballs behind him because he's a lucky guy that gets to take a look at training in the lead up to this huge game. Hey, Jesse.
This is pinch me to infinity right now. You can kind of see over my shoulder. Karl Anthony Towns is at the elbow right now talking through something with the staff. The team is out here warming up. Mikal Bridges on the other end of the court is taking some threes. I had a chance to talk with Jalen Brunson a short time ago about a range of topics, and I think one of the things that really sticks out to me, you're in New York right now, right? I was just there visiting home, watching the games, and just the energy in the city right now is insane. And I asked Jalen, I asked him if he's taking even a second to soak that in. And he said he has not. And I mean, I feel like even when you're leaving the Garden, he has to be able to get some sense of it. But he really says he is just completely focused still on, getting the job done. They still have one more win to go.
Honestly, I think regardless of what happened, our mindset was in 0-0 today. And coming into going into tomorrow, just focusing where we had to do better. Seeing where we lacked and seeing what the things that we did well, how we can improve on that. And so no matter what, our mindset was going to be what it is.
All right, everybody, it's time to head out of the ball. Please head towards the tunnel. Pack up your things.
I know they're trying to kick you out, it seems, right now. But
we can pick it back up in a second if we need to. Oh, well,
Are you getting kicked out?
Right. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. They just wrapped it up. Can we hop back on in like 2 minutes when we get outside? I'm sorry.
So, Jesse, you're now in location number 2 because you're just kicked out of training.
Yes, we got kicked out of practice. The Knicks don't want to give away their game plans, I'm sure.
Okay, so being completely transparent, I am a Knicks fan, but I do want to talk Texas as well. The Knicks have achieved the biggest comeback in NBA Finals history, beating the Spurs by 1 point in Game 4. The Spurs have the fight of their life ahead of them on Saturday night, right?
Yeah.
And I know that you actually
sat
down with Spurs forward Keldon Johnson. What did he tell you?
Yeah, so not quite a sit down. It was more of a look up. He's just a little bit taller than me. And I asked him about how you bounce back from a loss that is described as a historic comeback, right? You didn't just lose with the Knicks roaring back. It is one for the record books that will be talked about possibly for generations.
I mean, even if you won or you lost it, it still goes down as a win or a loss. So, you know, we lost and it's gut-wrenching and it hurts. And, you know, we ready to bounce back from that. We're ready to get back in here tomorrow night and get it done.
And you know, again, Yasmin, we can't underscore this enough. Make or break. If the Spurs do not win here Saturday night, their season is over and the Knicks go back to New York with hardware.
So how are Texas fans feeling today?
They've not given up hope yet, right? And by no means is this series over. It is far from over. And you just think about with the Knicks having all that momentum, being up 2-0, and then losing Game 3 at home in Madison Square Garden, right, with that raucous crowd. So that just underscores anything can happen. And I would think if you're the Spurs and you're the Spurs fans, if you are trying to hold on to the hope that you can turn this series around, you'd want to start at home, right?
Anything can happen, but Knicks in 5. Jesse Kirsch for us. Thank you, Jesse.
You got it.
All right. That is going to do it for us at Here's the Scoop from NBC News. I'm Yasmin Vasugian. We'll be back on Monday with whatever the weekend may bring. And if you like what you heard and you saw, press the subscribe button. We'll see you Monday.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.